What did that teach you, that whole process, creating something, having it, struggling with it, and eventually having to let it go?
I think it taught me that, you can be passionate, you can be bullheaded, single-minded. I'm an Aries, and I, will not ever quit. Um, I think you realize that if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, it's not necessarily the idea, it's the execution. So if you've gone down a road and you've given it everything you can, and then for some reason or another it's just not quite working, it does help to stop down, reevaluate, and change your strategy. You don't have to change your goal, but the strategy is what needs to be examined. And that's what I did when I had to shut down that company. And it's similar to when I stopped acting and started directing. My goal remained relatively the same, to be able to create, to be able to, have TV shows and films and, theater that I directed, produced, was involved with. My strategy has never changed. I mean, my goal has never changed, but the strategies, I reevaluate. If you've like thrown everything you could into it, it may be time to reevaluate.
Do you remember that day that you said, okay, I think it's time, this isn't it for me, I'm still young and vital, but I need to do something else?
Well, it's a little personal, but it coincided with a divorce as well.
Okay. Sorry, we have to talk about
you don't
all
want
that.
to hear about
It sounds like, though, but you came to a process in your mind that, and we can, we can start again, so we don't have to talk
I mean,
about
I don't
that.
mind. It's your typical. I've heard of many relationships have been casualties of this business.
Sure.
It's
But you still wanted to be in the business. You just wanted to go about it in a different way.
Yes.
It sounds like. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you remember the day you said, okay, I think I need to close the theater business. I think I need to close this theater.
Yeah, I mean, it was where I was rolling debt from one show into the next, and it just got to the point where the numbers weren't going to add up no matter what I did. It wouldn't have been ethical for me to keep going.
Sure, because I imagine it's similar to a film. And people still try to like put so much into one project, and it's time to maybe let that project go and move on to something new.
Yeah.
So what I was more going for, and I'm sorry if I'm getting too personal, is just
okay.
the mental process and that moment inside where you said, okay, this is going to be to the detriment of me, my finance, whatever, and how you processed saying it's time to say goodbye. And
Yeah,
how did you let people know?
I think it was when you realize like I had done everything I could do, and it had turned out the way I wanted it to turn out. and then, but I didn't have the results. I didn't have the audience. I didn't have the financial success. And I think you're like, well, this is exactly what I envisioned, and it didn't work. So I've got to change the process. It was really that simple for me. And honestly, working in LA and doing theater, it was a little counterintuitive if you think about it. I came out here to be in film and television, and I ended up doing what I was most comfortable with, which was theater. Trying to make theater work in this town is difficult. Just ask the people who run the Mark Taper, and the Dorothy Chandler. And that was the other thing. I was like, well, I better join in and start doing the film and television in the film and television capital of the world.
Right. And do you look back on it and realize that the closing of that theater and the moving on was a good, do you feel like you should have done it earlier? But do you feel happy with your own progress in it?
Oh,
like
absolutely. I still have the posters of the plays that I did, on my wall, and it definitely gave me, I ended up directing like 50 productions, over the course of a couple of years, and it was training. I always say you can't go back on your life and like take a slice of it out and say, well, I'd be happy where I am now, except for that one piece which I'm going to take out. It's everything you do is part of what makes you who you are, and doing those shows and just working over and over, it's like exercising or working out or keeping that fresh in your mind. Theater is so wonderful because you don't cut between scenes, and you get to see the story from beginning to end every night. And there's a lot of life in that. And film and television is very different because we chop it all up and you're shooting out a sequence, and sometimes you go back months later to finish scenes. So you never really get that sense of completion. So I definitely look back on my theater background and experience as a huge advantage, because then once I took that, it's very pure in the art and the interpretation of the material, and you take that artistic just purity and you mix it in with the technical that film and television is, because it is massively technical. You have to, that theater through line is a strength for me as a director now, because I've had that pure artistic foundation, and now I've got I've got the technical expertise, and now it's a natural combination. And that's why CINEDOPES is so exciting to do, is that it's the natural culmination of what I've been working on my whole life.